Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
He's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2. Thursday edition Hunt Palmer Show, officially working towards a weekend. Glad you're hanging out with us. Hopefully a short work week for most of you out there, and we are almost to the finish line. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Chris Blair will be with us in 15 minutes, kind of putting a bow on the LSU athletic year that was. It was not very good. We'll talk to Chris about that coming up in 15 minutes. Got an interesting ESPN.com ranking of the quarterback situations across college football that we'll get into, and I'll drop in there at the bottom of the hour that Sam Levitt was on Instagram or Twitter. I think it was Instagram today.
It was Instagram.
Instagram today, running up and doing a between the legs dunk.
It was a windmill, between the legs windmill.
Between the legs windmill dunk of a football over the goalpost. So I think he's probably feeling pretty good. I think maybe in this day and age could be AI. You never know. Maybe he's on crutches still, but it looks pretty good to me.
Nah, it looked. I will say this: please don't do that in game. No, I don't want him to break his foot or something like that. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
But it looked good, so we'll talk about that in 30 minutes. Let's start with the Saints OTA practice, their second one, the first time the media was allowed to watch those. So we'll talk about that. I'm going through my guy Ross Jackson's Twitter feed there at Ross Jackson NOLA, of course, Locked On Saints, as well as LouisianaSports.net Saints coverage. Not seen at practice today. Zach Wilson was not there. Kendre Miller was not there. Trey Palmer and Mason Tipton were not there out at wide receiver. At punter, Wright was not there. Alvin Kamara was not there. And two defensive tackles, Harris and Shepard, not there. Ross adds that Moore talked about Wilson, Wright, Kamara, and Shepard before practice, said they were not injury-related. I realize that you could look at Kendre Miller here and go, oh, my God, he didn't practice today. Apparently, he's still dealing with a knee injury that he had in week 7. So, it is what it is. My alarm bells on this are, for most players, it would be a 2 out of 10. For Kendre, it's a 4 out of 10. It's not a 5 out of 10. It's nowhere near an 8 out of 10. It is still May. It's still May.
It's still May, but because we just saw Mahomes tear his knee up in December, and
he plays quarterback.
But you're playing for your life right now. Your life is on the line.
But I'm not going to sound the alarms here. Maybe get out there and move a little bit, show the media you're around during some of the OTA workouts, yes. But no big deal on that to me. I think the only significant Saints injury that I'm looking at over the course of the updates that I saw from the Saints beat writers was that Jonas Sanker took the lion's share of the reps at that star slot corner spot. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. You look at the Saints depth chart, and at safety, you still have Justin Reed and Julian Blackmon. And remember, Julian Blackmon was balling last year, and then he got hurt, was lost for the season. But the reports coming out about him were so positive. And so you feel pretty good about him. We thought that was like a diamond in the rough the Saints had uncovered when they were going through those short-term contracts that they were giving guys because they were rebuilding and they weren't swimming in the expensive end of the free agent spending. They're like, they found Julian Blackmon. And Justin Reed, of course, they spent money on last year. And those two guys can play safety for you. Of course, Jonas Sanger can go back there and play safety. He did it last year. But he's got the speed and the athleticism, I think, to play in the corner, in the slot. Do I think it's a perfect solution? No, I'd probably rather have a true corner in there more often than not. But based on what we've seen from Jonas Sanker, it does look like he's got a lot of those traits. And I'm concerned with the ceiling and the floor of the Saints at corner and in slot corner. I'm not over the moon about Kool-Aid. I'm not over the moon about Quincy Riley. I think there's positives there. You've still got, some of the guys that have been running around for you, like Isaac Yiadom and Martin Emerson and some of those guys. It's not, that cornerback position is not ready to play at a championship level. But they're not alone. There's a lot. The cornerback's not ready to play at a championship level. So they're trying to find some answers. And look, if one of those tries is playing Quincy Riley at one corner and Jonas Sanker at the slot corner, let's take a look. Those are guys that you took in the middle rounds. Those are guys that showed some real flashes last year. Those are guys that are cheap. And I think it's low risk at this point because I just still don't feel like the Saints are ready to knock down the door and start shouting down the Seahawks. So I like the idea. My thought on it is tepid, but I like my thought on what the result's going to be is tepid. My thought on the idea is good. It makes the most sense. So I think in terms of what the guys on the beat, what the girls saw on the beat today, that makes the most sense. I'm reading Ross's Twitter. Further, said Tyler Shuck, who's meeting with the media, said the entire Saints roster and coaching staff shared stories about the best teams they've ever been a part of that varied from high school to the pros, said it helped them getting to know each other, as well as some good takeaways from camaraderie and perspective. And honestly, that's a great question. Or whoever asked that, it's a great thing, whoever decided to do that for the Saints. And it also, the answer to that question and the fact that that's the talking point right now drives home further that we're still in May, and these are the kind of things we're doing. We're sharing high school stories. We're running around in shoulder pads and helmets. So I'm not going to take anything away from the performances day to day in OTAs. They tell me Kevin Austin had a great play today. Awesome. What you can take away is where people are lined up, because that's serious stuff. And I think going back to that point where Jonas Sanker is doing the majority of the work in at that slot corner, which is a big question, is interesting. And so I would that would be takeaway number one for me. And takeaway number two is I would not be at all opposed still to the Saints dipping into the free agent market and getting someone to help Sanker there. And I do believe they will do that. Are they going to get a first-team All-Pro? Are they going to get a Pro Bowl? Are they going to get somebody that beats Sanker out? I don't know. They're not getting a first-team All-Pro. Sanker might be the guy. I think they do need to bring somebody in with a little bit different character traits that has done some more covering on the outside at this level that maybe you can kick in. A veteran. Maybe it's somebody that has played on the outside for most of their career, kind of lost a step. Bring them on the inside. It's the same thing. You got a safety, bring them down to the inside. I just want some competition there. I'm perfectly okay with Sanker getting the first look at this. That makes all the sense in the world to me. I do think there needs to be competition at this point for him, and I do think the Saints will do that at some point. But as far as what I've read from this and looking at Ross and Underhill and all those guys who have gone through practice, that was probably the biggest takeaway here, unless you want to throw a fit about Kendre Miller not practicing. But that's kind of where I am on OTAs today. What have you learned by your Twitter musings over there, Jordan?
I've learned this, though. That this Jonas Sanker thing, I like the idea in a vacuum, because what we learned last year with Jonas Sanker's rookie year, he has a knack for the ball.
He does.
The ball just seems to just always fall in his hands, kind of like how Tyrann Mathieu, just somehow, some way, where if he's on the field, the ball just magically comes his way. So I do like that and put him more in the sense where, Staley, he was the guy that kind of elevated Derwin James to what he became, with his time with the Chargers. So in a way, I'm not saying that Jonas Sanker can be a Derwin James, but you can kind of utilize him similarly to how a Derwin James can put him in a box, can put him outside a little bit. So I like that idea. What I did see was that, Tyler Shuck had a good day, but Spencer Rattler also had a good day. Now, I know I'm not advocating for Spencer Rattler to take the starting job or whatnot, but what we could have is a Spencer Rattler getting moved. We know how the NFL works. Quarterbacks, somebody's going to get hurt. Yep. It happens every season. Somebody's going to get rolled up on, knee, whatever. So you could put Spencer Rattler in a position where he has a nice preseason and you're shipping him to the highest bidder. And I like the sound of that because,
tell Saints PR to walk over to the Saints media and be like, I need y'all pumping up Rattler every practice. I need y'all sending some Rattler tweets out, get some Rattler videos going.
Get a little slow-mo action. It's going to look beautiful. Cinematic.
Get Rattler out there in the fourth quarter of some preseason games when all the guys who are going to get cut are out there and let him chop it up.
Hunt, I promise you somebody's going to bite. Somebody's going to bite.
Full-blown Spencer Rattler promotion mode over here. Yes. We need a fourth-round pick.
Yes, we do. Look. And that will, you got Zach Wilson. You don't just sign Zach Wilson for no reason.
That was a super ambitious. We need a 6th-round pick. It's probably what you're getting.
Hey, somebody get hurt. You never know. They're going to be desperate. They will be desperate.
All right, that's a look at Saints OTAs here on this Thursday. Let me remind you about my friends at One Bath and Closets. They're online at onebathandclosets.com. David Duvall and his team have been at this for 30 years. Go with the team that's been doing it for 30 years. Go with the team with the master plumber on staff. Go with a team who has been at this and can help you with the customization as well as the wonderful craftsmanship that they've got at One Bath and Closets. If you've got an issue with your shower, if you've got an issue with the bathtub, don't call the handyman down the street and hand him cash. Who knows what's going on back there and whether or not that fix is going to be worthwhile. At One Bath and Closets, they do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. So if you've got an old bathtub that's showing some signs that it may not be working well, or it's just ugly and unsightly, or you don't use it, take that tub out. Do a tub to shower conversion. David and his team can help you with all of that. You can find a free consultation at onebathandclosets.com. You can also see pictures of their fantastic work. It's One Bath and Closets. They're online at onebathandclosets.com. Moving along here on this Thursday, we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef as well. We'll talk to Chris Blair coming up here in about 5 minutes, and we'll get to some Sam Levitt talk. An interesting nugget that I want to talk about on this ESPN.com piece, so we'll do that coming up in 15 minutes. A lot of LSU coming at you over the next half hour. Like I said, it's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Hey, how about Swing Easy Golf Club right here in Baton Rouge? Weather doesn't look great today, tomorrow, the next day, the next week. Just looks really rainy. And if the golf course that you like to play looks like my yard, well, it's soaking wet. So that makes tee times tough to come by. Not at Swing Easy Golf Club. Even in golf season, which spring, summer, fall are around here, we can have bad weather. Never at Swing Easy Golf Club. So if you want to hit some golf shots this weekend, you want to work on your game this weekend, but you feel like it might be too wet, or you don't have 5 hours to do it, Swing Easy Golf Club on their simulators is a great way to get that done. You get a private bay, comfortable seating, turn the TV on, crank some tunes, play Pebble Beach, get on the driving range, whatever you want to do. And the technology is awesome. When I hit those 600 shots in a row there on a YouTube stream like a fool, I could tell. When I hit the Pro V1, the ball hit the green and spun. When I hit the old dingy ball that we had there, it bounced out like a rock. It's great technology. It can help you with your game, and you don't have to depend on 5-hour rounds or the weather. It's an alternative to golf out there in the outdoors. It's Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. They're online, swingeasygcbr.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Another year in the books for the LSU Sports Radio Network. Cranks up in early September for football, winds down with baseball and softball. Chris Blair, good enough to join us every Thursday. Voice of the Tigers here one more time before we break for the summer and get back at it in August. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, man. Yeah, looking forward to a great summer. And, we talked about it the last couple of weeks. I know this past athletic year was, again, there were some highs, but probably not what everybody was looking for. But my goodness, you can't help but be pretty fired up about what's going to start here come September 5th and I think go throughout the entire year.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, but this was a rough go for all three men's sports that you're on the mic for, certainly. I realize they're not going to take the paint off the Intimidator and write the 2026 team tried really hard. That's not what we're about around here. But I was taken by Cokie Riley's comments on my show yesterday that he thought the team was really emotional in Hoover when it all came to an end. And it could be easy for a lot of guys who were one-and-dones and a lot of guys who have pro dreams to go, well, we weren't very good, but whatever. We were done 3 weeks ago. It didn't seem like this team ever quite gave up. Did you sense that when you were with them?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, when I looked at, especially once conference play began and now looking back at the season, and I think it was very evident down the stretch because LSU's schedule, obviously, as the season wore on, you got to play some of the top teams on the back end of your schedule. I think it was a team that gave everything they had. Could they put it all together in a single game? That seemed to be a struggle, certainly since, early March, mid-March. But it wasn't from a lack of effort and caring. And again, I travel with the guys. I'm in the hotel for 4 or 5 days when we go on the road. You don't put in the hours, you don't put in the time and the dedication if you don't care. So I don't buy that one bit. But I think there were just teams that were able to be more consistent. Now, whether or not that's because they were top to bottom more talent, I'm not a talent assessor in the way coaches are. So I wouldn't step on that limb. But what I would say is it was a team that struggled to get consistency. And, we talked about it, I think, last week or the week before. I mean, it was kind of like trying to stop the dam from bursting. I mean, you get one thing fixed. I think the offense down the back stretch played much better than they did through the first half of the conference season. but you were unable to get the pitching. And then there were times where you got the pitching and you didn't get the offense. So I think that, to me, sums up this 2026 LSU baseball team. And as I've said before, we'll see what decisions they make. I don't think it's as easy or as automatic as maybe some of the people who, again, aren't around the team. And I'm talking about national people and people who cover college baseball. I think they've already assumed who's going, who's leaving, who's hitting the portal. I don't know. I mean, again, there will be some changes, but I think I'm excited to see what those changes are, who comes and who goes.
I think that most people didn't quite realize how injured this team was with Curiel on the foot and Stanfield's broken hand and Milan playing through everything that he did over the course of the year. And Stanfield then got hurt again, and so did Pearson, and Zach York got hurt, and obviously Cooper Moore, and obviously Schmidt and Evans. I mean, how difficult do you think that was on Jay Johnson trying to get this thing righted, and he can't get anybody out of the training room?
Yeah, no, that was the other issue. I mean, again, you're trying to completely develop, and you saw minor improvements, and Jay talked about it throughout the season. Like, look, we didn't win that game the other night, or we didn't win game one in this particular situation, but that was an improvement in certain areas than we had the week before or 2 weeks prior. And the problem was you were constantly having to change roles, move guys around the diamond. You were constantly having to bring guys in who certainly were expected to be, next man up for a short period of time. Suddenly they become the everyday guy. And again, I think if you take any optimism out of what was a dismal year in everybody's calculations, I mean, the fact that you got some of those guys, especially the young guys, and I shared with you yesterday, the exciting news on how the freshmen did perform. And let's face it, midway through the year, there were really two true freshmen that we thought were going to be the everyday guys. And suddenly you saw 3, 4, and 5 at times have to come in. And that's not even counting the pitching staff. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. But obviously, injuries happen to every team. Obviously, there's a rash of injuries that hit teams more so in one year than the other. I think LSU certainly had their fair share. That made it more complicated to get some continuity day after day after day.
When you're in Omaha for 2 weeks, you see Jay Johnson in the hotel every day. You do your pregame interview with him as well and see him out there on the field. And you realize that he's trying to put the next team together while he's up there. What do you think June looks like for him now that he's not going to be in an Omaha hotel room for 2 weeks?
It's funny. This morning I was reading something about the regionals about to start this weekend, and I thought to myself, I can't wait. First question I'm going to ask Jay when I see him later this summer or at the start of the year is, how miserable were you for this month?
Yep.
Because he lives for it. I mean, that's his sole purpose in rising and getting out of the bed every day. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's where I think we're all blessed to have him here at LSU. So the work that he's doing as we are sitting here chatting right now is probably would probably put a smile on most LSU faces because, as I've said many, many times before, he's got fewer hobbies than Nick Saban ever had, and he is going to do nothing but redo this roster. And I think probably now has a better sample size of 5 years in the SEC, 5 years in this changing landscape of college sports, and his ability, which I've always thought is very good at assessing talent. But I think now he knows what the fit will be. And sometimes you have to have years like this. And as Jay said multiple times down the back stretch of the season, if you just get frustrated at what happened and don't learn from it, then you're just miserable. And if you've been around Jay long enough, he's not a guy that dwells on being miserable. He can turn things behind and put things behind him very quickly and then get back to work. So if you were telling me we were going to have a down year in our justifications, then I would say the best guy to have at the helm in a down year, coming out of a down year, is Jay Johnson.
I don't disagree with that. Chris Blair's with us, voice of the Tigers, here for a couple more minutes as we put a bow on the seasons that were in LSU football, basketball, and baseball in this athletic year. But you got two new coaches. What excites you about Lane Kiffin and Will Wade entering next school year?
Well, I know you took in some spring football. I certainly did. And again, I just like the way it was laid out. I know that, there's a lot of other things off the field that get all the headlines, and I understand that's the world we live in now. But what was impressive to me is the team, the assembly, the way they do things. I mean, it's no surprise that he's had the success he's had. So again, can you turn it around in 12 months, 8 months, whatever the case may be? I don't know. I mean, it depends on what your standard is. What I do know is this is going to be a competitive football team that's going to play with a swagger. And if there's one thing that I've learned in 11 years, an LSU team of any kind that plays with a controlled swagger usually turns out to be pretty good. And I don't think there's going to be any question for that on the football field starting as soon as September 5th. I don't have an idea. I don't think anybody really has an idea of what the wins and losses will be in year number one. There's too many variables, even more so than there was 8 years ago in college football, especially with the transfer portal. But I like the people that he's brought in. I like the fact that he's got the quarterback he wants. He's not having to, put a square peg in a round hole from a quarterback system standpoint. This is his guy. And with him getting healthy and the videos we've seen the last couple of days, I think it's going to be lights out. It'll be a fun year. Is it up to everybody's expectations? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it'll be one heck of a year to be excited about LSU football. And being at Tiger Stadium, especially the first 3 weeks of the season, is going to be lit.
It is going to be that. What about Coach Wade? You've been working on those pronunciations because he's going to have you working hard.
Yeah, I'm going to get with him, I think, on early June. He and I are going to have a sit-down. And part of that is kind of discussing his return and all of the things that's happened since he last was coach here. But that's going to be one of my side notes off cameras, make sure I learn everybody's name. And also I imagine there's going to be some nicknames. Coach Wade and his team always have nicknames, so we'll have to learn those as well. But, again, he's a winner everywhere he's been. He's pushing the boundaries of what's allowed, and anybody that's upset about that or what's been the norm, anybody that's upset about that isn't paying attention to what's happening in college sports. Again, we've spent these last 3 or 4 days in the SEC meetings, and basically the biggest thing I got out of it, hon, I don't know if you feel any different, was we're kind of in an ungoverned, uncharted territory. And so when people say, well, you shouldn't do that or you can't do that, my question is, why not? I mean, show me the black and white rule that says you can't do this. So I think the excitement, again, it starts with football. It'll start. But I think this whole upcoming season, I think will be good. I think it'll be exciting because it's hard to maintain that level of consistency at any university and any athletic department across all the sports that are put out there. So you're going to have years like this. I know that doesn't make anybody feel any better. But I do like the fact that LSU said, okay, this is obviously not the standard. And so we're going to make some changes. And so, again, instead of me harping on this past year or what this team could have done or that team could have done or should have done, it's more about what we've got in front of us, and how you can't be excited about that. I just don't know.
I am. Enjoy a little downtime this June. I expect him to put you to work the entire month next summer.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I'm going to enjoy this June. I don't know what to do with myself in June. What do people do in June?
I'm going to watch some baseball, but it's just not going to be at the box, which is unfortunate.
I don't know. I'm kind of like Jay. I mean, I looked up this morning to see the matchups, and then part of me was like, do I want to watch that? I don't know. That's almost – I mean, even when we go on the road, and I've said this, nothing like hosting regional and super regional at the box. There's no question about it. But there is excitement to be involved in it. So I understand Jay's, feeling about not being involved and not wanting to watch it, because I kind of feel the same way.
Well, I appreciate you coming on with me Thursday. I got UCLA too, but I'm Georgia Tech and UCLA are my two teams.
Bingo, those are my two. I thought you were going to ask me, and I was already prepared. Georgia Tech and UCLA, no SEC winners. That's what I say.
Completely agree with that. I appreciate you coming on Thursdays. Appreciate you letting me tag along in football and baseball, and we'll catch up down later in the summer.
Couldn't imagine doing it without you, hon. Thank you for everything.
He is Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, giving a little recap of this year and a preview of what's to come, which I do think everybody believes that next year's going to be really exciting. Now, could things fall flat in any sport? Sure, we just watched it. We just watched it in 3 of them. But I think the excitement level with the coaches that LSU has in those 3 sports that Chris calls are capable of making things really exciting and winning a lot of games. And they've proven it over the course of their careers, and I certainly hope that starts on Labor Day weekend here in Baton Rouge. We shall certainly see. Thanks to Chris for coming aboard. Speaking of that, where does Sam Levitt rank in terms of the quarterbacks around the country? ESPN.com has their thoughts, including some statistics that I want to talk about. We'll do it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust, FABT.com. They've been at it for 116 years, y'all. That's since 1910. That's been around the block. And they've grown throughout that time to 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. So when you think about a local bank, a community bank, which this is, they got 25 locations and they're all right here in Southeast Louisiana. Don't think, well, that's just a small mom and pop bank. I can't do my commercial loans through them. I got to go through the national folks. 25 locations. So when those decisions made about your commercial loan, your personal loan, it's made by someone in your community, someone that you see at church, or you see out at the Little League field, or you see, out at the golf course. That's because it's a community bank with a community feel that has the resources of the national bank. So if you want somebody making decisions about your loans that's in your neck of the woods and not in Atlanta or LA, First American Bank and Trust. Go by and see one of their locations. Dutchtown, Jones Creek, St. James Parish, St. John Parish, Tangipahoa Parish, St. Tammany Parish, down in Metairie. There's always a First American Bank and Trust near you if you're in Southeast Louisiana. They're online at FABT.com, FABT.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. I'm going to give you Sean Sagrera's phone number at the end of this read. So if you're looking for some of the finest beef in the country, this is who you need to call. And it's right here north of Baton Rouge. From where I'm sitting right now in downtown Baton Rouge, you're talking about 25, 30 minutes. In Ethel at Sagrera Farms, I've been to the farm. It is such an impressive spot, and the operation that Sean's got going over there is fantastic. So if you have exhausted your ideas for Father's Day, and you just have no idea what to get your dad or the dad in your life, have out half a cow from Sagrera Farms. Call it a day. Maybe there are 4 dads in the family that you want to split half a cow or split a whole cow between. You can do that as well. You're talking about prime Angus beef. I give you the IMF scale every single week. You're talking about the bottom of the barrel is select. That's 1 to 3 on the scale. From 3 to 7 is your choice. That is what 60% of beef is. When you get to 8, that's prime. Sean's got cows on the farm that have been ultrasounded. It's not a guess. That are 8, 10, 12, 17, 20. 20. That's better than double the standard for prime. The marbling, the flavor, the tenderness, it is phenomenal. It's the best steak I've ever made at home. My wife won't eat burgers without Sagrera Farms ground beef now. It's what we do at the Palmer House, and you can make that happen for you at your house if you call Sean. 225 is the area code right here just outside of Baton Rouge. 719-1723. That's 719-1723. Get half a cow. It's a game changer. It's Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. All right, David Hale from ESPN put together a piece on NCAA football, ranking all 138 quarterback situations entering the season. And I was curious where Sam Leavitt would be on that list. And you start in Tier 1A, the top, and it's 4 guys. It's Arch Manning at Texas, Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, C.J. Carr at Notre Dame, and Darian Mensah, who is now at Miami. Of course, he was at Duke last year. That's the top of the list. And then you got Tier 1B, that's got Julian Sayin in it. And then you get to Tier 2. And that's where you find Dante Moore and Dylan Raiola at Oregon, both of them in one room. Jade Mayava at USC, and Sam Leavitt. So he's got him in Tier 2 as a top 10 quarterback in the country. I just want to talk about Leavitt, not the rest of the guys, because I think there's an interesting stat that he sprinkles in here. He says Leavitt versus Big 12 competition the last 2 years is 11-2. That's obviously very good. Has an 80.1 total QBR. That's out of 100. 80th, pretty good. 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's great. Great ratio, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Completion rate at 63.4%, which is fine. It's not great. It's not bad. 63% is good. Against everybody else, he's 5-2, not as good. 61.5 total QBR. That's 20 points lower in QBR. 8 touchdowns, 5 picks, and the completion percentage drops from 63% to 57%. So I went and looked. I was like, well, who is that against? And the non-Big 12 games are against, in 2024, so 2 years ago, Mississippi State, Texas State, and Texas. That was the playoff game against Texas. And then Northern Arizona, Mississippi State, and Texas State this year. So I don't really care what he did against Northern Arizona, Wyoming, Texas State. That's not interesting. What did he do against the SEC teams? Because that's what the implication here is when you chart that drop-off. It's playing Houston, Texas Tech, Kansas State, TCU, Oklahoma State, and then your stats drop off significantly when you play those other teams. Against Mississippi State in 2024, which was a game out in Tempe, he was 10 of 20 for 69 yards. 10 of 20 for 69 yards is not very good. Now, Arizona State won the game, but that's not a great resume. This past year in Starkville, they lost the game. In Mississippi State, he was 10 for 22 for 82 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So, not good. The other SEC opponent that he faced was Texas in the playoff over in Atlanta. And in that game, he was 24 out of 46. That's a low completion percentage, just over 50%. But 24 for 46, 222 yards, no touchdowns. He did throw an interception. So against 3 SEC opponents, 2 Mississippi States, who are the worst team in the league, and Texas, 44 out of 88, which is exactly 50%, 124 yards per game, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Not good. And I think that's important to bring up. And it's difficult to suggest he had no supporting cast because he had Cam Scatterbo 2 years ago and he had Jordan Tyson both years. And so should that be concerning to LSU fans? And I would suggest not concerning. I would suggest interesting. I would suggest that it's worth noting. But the piece to the equation that this does not include, the game against Mississippi State, the other game against Mississippi State, the game against Texas, what's not included in that is Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss. And I think when you talk about Sam Leavitt, you can talk about 3 things. You can talk about his performance at Arizona State, and I'm not disparaging Kenny Dillingham. I just told you Jordan Tyson and Cam Scatterbo were good. But you got to take into account his stats at Arizona State. You got to take into account his new coaching staff at LSU, which found its last Heisman-esque quarterback in God knows where, Ferris State. They also did a pretty good job with Jackson Dart and Matt Corral, and a pretty good job with whoever was playing quarterback at FAU, who I won't even look up because I don't care, and Blake Sims and what, like, he's been a great quarterback play caller and offense designer. And he's found quarterbacks, sometimes 4-star recruits, sometimes at Ferris State. But you got to take that into account, and you got to take into account the injury. So it's what he did at Arizona State, which was really good in the Big 12, not as good when he stepped out of the Big 12. You got to take into account the new coaching staff and the injury. I think all of that boils into what Sam Leavitt will be for this team. And until today, I felt like the injury was still a pretty significant question mark. Because the last time we saw Sam Leavitt, he was not participating. He was out there in a helmet, and he made a couple throws, and he didn't do a whole heck of a lot in spring football, which we knew was coming. Now, we saw him out there right at the beginning of spring football, and we're like, oh, he's like throwing slant routes, and he's out there doing handoffs, and like he's going to be okay. And then 4 days later, he had the pins taken out of his foot, and he wasn't even there, and he's wearing tennis shoes, and he's not practicing, not doing anything. It's like, oh, okay. So they really did know. But in the last 2 days, we've gotten two nuggets on Sam Levitt. One of them is Lane Kiffin at spring meeting saying, yeah, he ran 21 miles an hour yesterday. That's pretty good. I didn't see it. I have no way to document it. Seems like 21 miles an hour is pretty good, fairly healthy. And the second piece of evidence came today when on Instagram, Sam Levitt posted a video of him taking a running start just outside the goal line, running up, going football between the legs, windmill dunk through the goalposts. It's May 28th. Like, I just don't have a lot of concerns about Sam Levitt's foot against Clemson. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an orthopedist. I'm none of those things. But Brandon Taylor told us on this show in January that he hurt his foot, same Liz Frank deal, in November. He was running full speed in April. Now, Matt Mock said, I didn't feel the same. Matt Mock injured his 24 years ago. I think medicine's probably improved a little bit. Now, VT's was 15 years ago. But it feels like, based on Kiffin saying he's running 21 miles an hour, and the video of him doing the windmill dunk through the goalpost, he's probably feeling pretty good. So I feel good about the injury part of it. I feel good about LSU's coaches. And I feel good about the way Sam Levitt performed in the Big 12. The question is, does it translate to the SEC better than 50% completion, 124 yards per game, an average in those three games, 1 touchdown, 3 picks? And I tell you, in conclusion, my sincere thought on this is he's going to be pretty good. And that's not just the LSU grad who works for the LSU Sports Radio Network and pulls for the LSU team telling you I think he's going to be pretty good. That's the article that ESPN published today from David Hale that ranks him in the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. It's on 3, putting him as the number 1 transfer portal quarterback in the country. I feel good about it. The stats are interesting, something you need to consider. I don't think they're disqualifying. I think he's going to play pretty well this year. I think he's going to be pretty healthy. I'm excited about it. Let's close the show next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is that website. Look, benefits are tough right now, and they know that at the Highland Insurance Group. If your healthcare renewal last year or the one that's upcoming is just really tough to swallow financially, talk to the Highland Insurance Group. Because they know your pain, they know which carriers are driving rates up, and they're happy to help. There's no guarantee, there's no silver bullet that they're going to knock 20% off your health care. In fact, they're probably not going to do that much. But they may be able to stabilize things. And they'll certainly give it a look. They know that keeping employees and recruiting employees sometimes comes down to the benefits you're able to offer. Health care, vision, dental, all that. And they're happy to help as an independent broker with access to multiple carriers. So if you're a business owner, or you're an HR, or you're a CFO, and you're in charge of the benefits with your company, and a renewal is coming up, or the one that you just went through was just uncomfortable in terms of the pricing, contact the Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. They're online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Shout out to Sagrera Farms, bringing you our Thursday shows each and every week. We'll have a busy show tomorrow. Preston Guy will come on and talk some Tiger football. Big recruiting weekend for LSU football. I would imagine there are going to be some rumblings from LSU baseball over the course of the next week. That may start tomorrow. It may not. But they're going to get their ducks in a row because the portal opens on June the 1st. And so if there are some players from LSU like Maverick Rizzi who decide they're going to go in, you may see some announcements on that front. And I think you're going to start seeing some guys, especially as the regionals close up on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. then the portal opens up, and then it's just a free-for-all. But LSU's just sitting there with a big, wide net saying, hey, anybody want to show up? They should be in good position. So we'll talk a little bit about that on tomorrow's show as well. Saints OTAs are rocking and rolling. If you want some Saint coverage, Ross Jackson just texted our group. He's about to work on some observations from Saints' first open OTAs practice today, and he'll have that up at louisianasports.net in pretty short order. It'll be for free right there on the homepage, so I hope y'all will check that out. Also of note, the MLB just put forth a formal proposal for the upcoming collective bargaining agreements, and they have asked for a full salary cap and floor. So we're not playing baseball next year is basically what that means. So my take, I may talk about that a little bit on tomorrow's show as well. Let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, so the New York Knicks announced today that they're donating hundreds of tickets to underprivileged children for the NBA Finals. The tickets will be donated to the Garden of Dreams Youth Foundation, which will receive 200 tickets per home game, totaling 500 tickets between games 3 and 4, and it'll be 750 tickets in total if there is a game 6. So, classy move by the Knicks. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Find some kids, get them a jersey, maybe get them a hot dog and a Coke, something to hang out. That's going to be as good an environment as the NBA can provide for the finals. Knicks hadn't been in the finals in a minute. I was in middle school, so we'll see how that goes.
I'm scared about that. Like, if they win, let's just say they win, New York actually might explode. Like, I'm scared to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute. The last
73.
For the Knicks, yes, yeah. 73. I'm thinking about New York teams that have won it. Obviously, the Giants have those two. The Yankees won one. Certainly not the Jets. I don't know. Lord. I can't help you with the Rangers. But yeah, it's been a minute.
All right, so a struggling Paul Skeens is taking a mound today versus the Cubs, who just snapped their 10-game losing streak. So are the Cubs going to knock Skeens around the park today? Take it or leave it?
I'll leave that. I mean, we did score 10 last night. Yeah. That'll work. Myers man watched the game with me. He woke up this morning, came out to the couch, said, did the Cubs or Pirates win? I was like, the Cubs won, bud. They were winning 10-4 when you went to bed in the 8th. We held that one on, but they're not going to beat Skeens today. They're playing terrible.
He's struggling, though. He's on the 2 games.
He's given up 5 runs in 2 starts. That's the standard.
Well, for him, yes,
his ERA is still 3.
Well, I said for Paul Skeens, that's a little, Yeah. So UCLA quarterback Carson Gordon has entered the transfer portal. As you know, the transfer portal is closed. So what is going on? So he will enter as a track athlete, but will play football. So is this the new loophole that will be exploited? Take it or leave it.
Won't last long. It's the Bear Bryant deal. Bear Bryant used to use all the school's track scholarships so he could keep all the good players away from other teams. Yeah, that ain't going to fly. It's like you have to use the scholarship for football if you're going to play football. That's how they got it to the Bear Bryant rule. They'll nip this one in the bud.
So we're going.
Good idea, though, Carson Gordon. But it's not going to. He may work for him. Not going to work moving forward.
Yeah, and I just cannot believe that. I don't know. I can't say I can't believe anything with college football at this point. Everything is believable. So, tracking down the mailman in the neighborhood for a package, take it or leave it.
I mean, I guess I'll take it, but I just got words. My wife, she got home. She's got a package coming. She's very excited about it. Okay. She needed a signature. She got to the house. It had already come. So she tracked it and found out they were closed, so they came recently. She drove through our entire neighborhood twice until she found the mailman and got the package. She's very excited. I thought that was crazy behavior, but she did.
Well, you know what? I can't say nothing because I'd be so excited. Depends on what's coming in the mail. So
she was very excited about this.
Oh yeah, no. If I got to go hawk it down, this is something extremely important. So no, I can't. Beggars cannot be choosers. So
she found the mailman, got it taken care of. I was like, let's just set my butt on the couch and said it'll come tomorrow. That's where I would have been on that.
Depends on how long I've been waiting. The wait is the point.
2 weeks.
Ooh, yeah, I need that. I need that.
All right.
So that's it for Take It or Leave It.
That's it for Take It or Leave It. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef on this Thursday. If you missed any of the show, I'll recap what we did. Talked about LSU's injury situation in the baseball field. We found out a lot about yesterday on After Further Review and just how tough this season was for that team. Best and worst of the Saints offseason, according to ESPN.com. I actually did not agree with the worst. You can find that at Hunt on Saints. Joe Healy with us breaking down SEC baseball regionals and Keith Law's new updated top 50 prospect list in Major League Baseball. Kate Anderson, number 4. Anthony Ianson, number 21. Pretty special 1-2 punch LSU had last year. Saints OTA report at 2 o'clock. That'll again be up at Hunt on Saints. Chris Blair wrapping up his season-long visits with us on Thursdays. Appreciate him. And talked a little Sam Levitt there at 2:30. You can find that at Hunt on LSU. You can find our whole shows in their entirety wherever you find your podcast, Hunt Palmer Show, and also on YouTube as well. As I mentioned, on tomorrow's show, we'll get into some LSU football recruiting. They got Easton Royal coming on campus, plus I think the number 1 player in the nation's coming, so we'll talk about some of that. 5 stars aplenty on LSU's campus, which is one of the reasons that Lane Kiffin took this job. So it is Regional Friday. No game for us to cover, but we'll find some other things to talk about, and appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. Stay tuned for all of that from 3 to 6. We'll be with you tomorrow, same time, same place. It'll be a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, online at FabryChevrolet.com. That is FabryChevrolet.com. Every car that is on the lot is online at FabryChevrolet.com. And inviting you, as you're well aware, that calendar is getting short in May. And they got great offers. A 2026 Chevy Silverado at 0% APR financing for 36 months, but you got to go before the end of the month. Also, 2026 GMC Sierra 1500s, 2.9 financing for 72 months now until the end of the month. So you got to get in. And of course, if you're looking for something else, maybe a Chevy Trailblazer, Chevy Trax, those can be as low as $30,000. Great deals, great people, new location, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Make that short drive from Baton Rouge. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump. Get great people and a great deal at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. The entire inventory, all of it, is online at FabryChevrolet.com.